In these hard times there will always be singing. Always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be singing. Always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be singing. Always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be singing. Always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be dancing. Always be dancing in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be dancing. Always be dancing in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be laughing. Always be laughing in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be laughing. Always be laughing in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be praying. Always be praying in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be praying. Always be praying in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be singing. Always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times there will always be singing. Always be singing in these hard times.
Welcome to our gathering of the Baja Four, the four Unitarian Universalist congregations that serve Southern Arizona. We're so glad you're here with us. Today I'm here. My name is the Reverend Samantha Wilson, and I'm very grateful to serve Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation in Tucson. And I'm joined today by the Reverend Funke Crary. So we gathered today, like we gather each week, miraculous. It is miraculous that we stop, that we pause, that we face ourselves and face each other and face this world. This is one of the ways that we remember who we are and who we want to be, especially in these hard times. So we remember today, especially on this day, that so many hold as sacred as Easter, and on a week that so many hold as sacred as Passover, and during a season, spring season, where life just finds its way to show up again with a question that is being asked of us. What is required of us in times like these? So may today help us remember and recommit anew to what it takes to stay awake and to stay faithful witnesses to each other and to our world. Come, let us worship together.
Happy Easter. I'm the Reverend Funke Crary, serving our congregation, Borderlands UU. And I light this chalice on our Easter Sunday 2020 with these words. For the holy days on which we recall the old stories, we light this flame. For Passover, which reminds us of the courage and strength of those seeking freedom in the past, we light this flame. For Easter, which reminds us that love is our greatest challenge, we light this flame. For gathering today in this sacred space, we light this flame. For the opportunity to be together as a community, to remember the past, to plan for our future, and to be alive in our present. We light this flame. By the Reverend Dillman Baker Sorales, a white Unitarian Universalist minister, retired.
Good morning, friends. I'm Jamelia Omar, the Director of Lifespan Faith Development at the UU Church of Tucson, and I have a story for you today. The story I want to share today is a story that was told by some friends, Catherine Vaca Good and Marion Hirsch. It's a part of a longer video they did, but I just want to show this part. It tells the story of Easter and why it means so much to some people. As we watch the video, I encourage you to think about these 3 questions. The video goes kind of fast, but I'll remind you of the questions at the end. The first question, what have we lost? How do we grieve? And how do we sit with the discomfort of our grief?
Exactly. The Easter story starts out as a super sad story. Jesus was a wise and radical teacher with a group of loyal and loving followers. His teachings were about love and kindness. Then he was put to death, executed by his government for his religious ideas. That is the sad part. After he died, he was put in a tomb, and his followers were grief-stricken. They didn't know how they were going to be able to continue to go on with Jesus' teachings without him. Then the next day after he died, a weird thing happened. The followers came to the tomb, which was kind of like a cave. The stone at the entrance to the cave had been rolled away, and the tomb was empty. They were surprised to find the tomb empty. Then, suddenly, they realized that although Jesus was dead, he was not gone in their hearts and minds. His love and teaching remained. A legend grew up that he had actually risen from the dead even, because they felt so strongly that he was still there in their hearts. And instead of giving up and just forgetting about Jesus and his teachings, the followers traveled and brought Jesus' message of love and freedom everywhere they could go. And when others heard the message and could see the love and passion of his followers, they also started to spread his teachings. The wonderful thing about love and kindness is that it grows when you share it.
In the original, the story ends right here. Our little bunnies, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome, have come to the tomb to anoint and wash and prepare the body of Jesus. But more than this, they have come to grieve for their beloved. What they experience instead is not what they expect. They witness something so big and so overwhelming they can't understand it, let alone do the next right thing. They can only run in terror and in awe. And I don't know about any of you, but this pretty much sums up my experience of Easter this year. Not what I expected. I want to run and hide in terror and awe. And that's okay, because we have been confronted by something new and frightening. As we move through this, we have to ask, what have we lost? We need to name it, all the big losses and the little losses. How do we grieve this? We need to do it. We can't ignore the grief of this time. We must live with our grief, make a home for it, welcome it in, so that we can someday transform it and be transformed by it. That means we need to sit in discomfort. How do we sit with our own terror and awe, and with the terror and awe of our friends and our family? We know the next part of the story will come. Hope will come. Rebirth will come. That's the thing about life and death. We need to mourn, to feel the angry, sad hopelessness, because through this, the next thing can happen. In their book, Proverbs of Ashes, Rita Brock and Rebecca Ann Parker write, "Mourning strengthens our ability to choose life and protect it, even as the pain of grief threatens to destroy us. Those who mourn experience the mystery of a presence that is not wholly lost, that accompanies the living with a tenderness and power that alters their lives. The world changes. The surface mass thin, life becomes luminous with fire, the heart expands its breath, and finally, love is as strong as death.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the love of our heart stirs within, when we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
So it was December 2019, on the Sunday before Christmas, and my partner Andrew and I were very excited to announce to Mountain Vista congregation a little secret we had been keeping for about 3 months, that I was pregnant. Now, it was joyous, and I thought totally clever to announce this at Christmas. And I was imagining the kinds of experiences that we would get to have with this first child. Now, I know some of you have had this experience before, either in your own lives or with family members or friends, but I had the whole pregnancy pictured. It was going to be amazing. Sonoran desert springtime blossoms, cactus blooms, a baby celebration in California with friends flying in from all over, a visit to my partner's family in Florida, promises from out-of-state friends to come move in with us, live in community, and help take care of the child. I had even planned maneuvers to try to keep family members out of a hospital room so that I could have quiet, private time with the newborn child. Of course, never thinking that I would have to consider they would never be allowed in the first place. So of course, you know what happens next. I am reckoning with a different birth plan. The thing that I thought for myself and had prepared for myself and this child has completely changed. And I'm thinking that this is true in bigger ways for so many of us. Now we hear stories of friends or family who are sick, who are out of work, who are out of money, who are out of healthcare, who are out of options, whose loved ones have died, some of our own people who feel alone. And those of us with more or other forms of security stay in our homes, trying to make sense of things, trying to make time together, trying to learn technology, trying to make do, make meaning, make new ways of being, or make preparations just in case. And there is a part of me that definitely wants to go back to sleep, as if this was all some strange dream and I want to melt and hide in my office and turn off the computer and never sign into Zoom again and be alone. Unfortunately, this baby, 6.5 months in the making now, would never allow such a restful escape. The kicking and the punching, things I've heard called flutters, came just as the lockdowns and the shelters in place came. And while I do appreciate a good metaphor, I find this child's aliveness somewhat challenging, as if it is a reminder of the joy and possibility I was supposed to be feeling the entire time. But instead, this kid kicks me from the inside as if to say, stay awake, stay alert. And I want to groan at them. No, I get 2.5 more months, but then again, kicking me, stay awake. No, what I really want to say and weep is that I never thought this was the world I was bringing you into. No, this was not the way this was supposed to go. I'm sure some of you feel me. So if you also find yourself saying out loud, no, this was not how this was supposed to be, you and I have found ourselves in an Easter story. So I'm grateful for the Jewish tradition and the Christian traditions that are sacred sources of wisdom for us as we gather now. And I know I certainly need these stories of life from oppression and life in the face of loss like a compass for my own life right now, as a soon-to-be new mother and as a new minister. And I know transformation is possible, and I know unexpected life is possible, and yet right now we do not find ourselves at the miraculous end of the Easter story. We're finding ourselves at its beginning, the moment when you and your people know that something big is happening and you have to get prepared for it. So this year, the question Easter is asking of us is this: how do a people survive and even become transformed in times like these? So there they all were, a people who had a profound and shared belief in something. The people knew that the government and those who were empowered to protect them would never protect them, and that the rulers did not honor their worth or dignity. And it became clearer and clearer and clearer that something was going to happen, and they all knew it. And so they started to say it out loud to each other. They say it in words that are perfectly clear. There will be loss, there will be betrayal, there will be grief, there will be death, there will be completely unjust power. And they say it to each other, all of those things that normally give us a perfectly good reason to run in the opposite direction and hide ourselves in our room and go at it alone. And perhaps that's actually where this whole Easter miracle really occurs. Instead of going it alone, which they could have completely have done, they go right towards it together. A line from the book of Mark says that over and over and over again, this was a time that people were asking each other to stay awake. Watch out for me. Watch over me, please. keep awake. And in their wakefulness, when it's all said and done, and when the harm has been done, and those who had been empowered to protect the people had done their negligence and their cruelty, what is it that happens? Well, these wakeful, watchful people do what they must do. They go to the tomb to care for the body. They go to anoint or bless a body, particularly the body that the rulers said was not worthy. And they go to tend the hurting body, the dying body, and they go together. And that's what they do to stay alive and be transformed. They go towards it and towards each other, and they go together. Now, I think of any crisis where a people survived, were transformed, and were more powerful than they had ever imagined themselves to be when they left it. And that is the pattern. I think in particular of the HIV/AIDS crisis, when an unjust government would not do what was fully possible to take care of a people, and when a sacred people realized their sacred and holy bodies were not being honored, they turned towards each other and they moved with each other. And that's how they survived. And that, of course, is where a miracle happens, in the unknowable, not understandable, not demandable, not predeterminable or wishful, but not guaranteed miracle. That's where the thing finally happens. And when Reverend Matthew and I were preparing the service for you today, we did throw around an alternate title besides Stay Awake. And the alternate title was Everybody Except Jesus. Because in a way, the Easter story is about all the other people besides Jesus. In the face of something completely overwhelming, uncertain, terrible, and awe-inspiring, what is it that people do to survive and be transformed? This is what I see. I see in these stories a people who do not turn away from each other. I see a people who do not turn away from discomfort, theirs or others. They do not reach for platitudes, easy answers, promises of grandeur or revenge. I see a people who stay awake and watchful of each other. I see a people who go to the tomb to anoint and tend the body that is worthy, no matter their pre-existing condition, age, vulnerability, race, ability, sexuality, income, access to healthcare, or gender. I see a people who tend each other's ill and sick and dying bodies, each other's health and each other's death and their dying. And I see a people who don't demand a miracle, but who show up for one. Because when we show up for each other, something miraculous seems to happen. If you are like me, and you have found yourself saying, this is not how it was supposed to be, and if you are a person among a people who is suffering, and if you are a person among a people who are grieving, and if you are a person among a people who are trying to understand something terrible and awful and awe-inspiring, and if you feel the flutters in your gut that something important is being required of you right now, then you have found yourself in an Easter story. And having found ourselves in this Easter story together, may we remember this. We are in the business of not turning away from each other, and that the Spirit of love kicks us from the inside out. And she says, stay awake. Watch out for each other. We are in the business of anointing each other's bodies, no matter what. Showing up for each other's living and each other's dying. And that when we do that, something miraculous happens. Something that we could never even imagine. I hold hope in that possibility. So may it be so, today especially, but in all our days to come.
What we need is here. 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 What we need is what we need is what we need is what we
Joanna Macy has long been a teacher of mine. She has a great heart, and her lifelong teaching seeks to hospice out this collapsing world and midwife in the next. Some years ago, during a week with her, I started to call her grandmother, and in gratitude and respect for her wisdom and teaching, and she allowed it. This Easter Sunday, I wanted to pass on a gift that grandmother shared with me, a ritual from her wisdom teachings. Now, grandmother teaches that there is work for us to do to reconnect all of us amidst the broken pieces of the world. This work begins with gratitude, for we will need to remember and lean into our gratitude when the work gets hard. The work then calls us to recognize this present moment, to breathe in and out slowly as many times as you need, just to be present to what is happening, to where you are, and to who you are right now. Then, the work invites us to honor our pain for the world. And in this time of pandemic, my beloveds here in southern Arizona, I wish there was not this enduring pain and suffering and discomfort, but there is. And let's be honest, this pain has been a part of this collapsing world for so many of us for so long. And today we're only finding it amplified. Amplified so that it grabs a hold of every person a part of this planet. It's here in our Borderlands communities, here within each of us, in you and in me. And so before we continue with the work that grandmother teaches, the work that reconnects, and see through new eyes and go forth in a new spirit, we must pause and be present now. We must witness our pain for the world. Grandmother teaches a simple ritual for this part of the work that I've adapted and I'm going to share with you, hoping that you too will gather the materials and practice it yourselves. The ritual is called the Truth Mandala. Now, in her book, Coming Back to Life, grandmother says, that truth-telling is like oxygen. It enlivens us. Without it, we grow confused and numb. It's a homecoming also, bringing us back to powerful connection and basic authority. And yet, I've found that truth-telling is all too often frightening for adults. That instead of claiming our connection and our authority, we carefully and cautiously avoid and distance ourselves from pain. Children, I've witnessed, tell us what they see with full and open hearts. Their boldness and bravery are an example of how to practice the Truth Mandala, to breathe deeply and witness pain. Pain is what is happening here globally. The pain is here among us, and the pain within each of us right now. So first, we gather 4 items: a stone, dried leaves or dried grass, a stick, and an empty bowl. And Reverend Samantha, Reverend Bethany, Reverend Tina, and I offer the items that we have collected with the words of songwriter Gretchen Sliker.
Empty bowl is our confusion, hollow space of uncertainty. Opens the place for new creation, lightness that can set us free.
Dried grasses speak of our pain and sorrow, tears for the losses deeply mourned. Beneath them lie our caring, for we can only mourn what we truly love.
Silent stone is the fear that can grip us. Fear of the future, fear for our own lives. It speaks to the courage it takes to face the suffering with an open heart.
Stick of wood cries out our anger, fiery rage with all who are wronged, burns with a passion for justice, moves us to keep on keeping on.
Rolling Away the Stone by Reverend Sarah York. In the tomb of the soul, we carry secret yearnings, pains, frustrations, loneliness, fears, regrets, and worries. In the tomb of the soul, we take refuge from the world and its heaviness. In the tomb of the soul, we wrap ourselves in the security of darkness. Sometimes this is a comfort. Sometimes this is an escape. Sometimes it prepares us for experience. Sometimes it insulates us from life. Sometimes this tomb life gives us time to feel the pain of the world and reach out to heal others. Sometimes it numbs us and locks us up with our own concerns. In this season where light and dark balance the day, we seek balance for ourselves. Grateful for the darkness that has nourished us, we push away the stone and invite the light to awaken us to the possibilities within us and among us. Possibilities for new life in ourselves and in our world.